everyone, it's Michelle from Scrap Secrets and welcome to this week's Sketch Sunday video. This week's sketch comes to you from My Favorite Things. It's 318 and as always I will have the link below. The products that we're using are My Favorite Things bottle caps. We're just going to use the circles from that. I did cut out the bottle cap tops, but we're not going to use them. Then we're going to use the Soda Pop bottles dies and the Soda Pop stamp set. Some of the sentiments in there, we're going to use that. So we're also going to use the Simon Says Stamp Falling Snow stencil. I thought that it kind of looked like bubbles from a soda when you pour it in, like the little fizzy bubbles that go up. So what I'm going to do is, you saw in the sketch, there's a border around the sentiment. So I took some washi tape that I had that was lying around that was thicker than the sentiment, and I decided to put that down first before I went over the stencil with distress ink, because this way it would leave it white and it would make the sentiment stand out. So here you go, I'm just placing the pieces on there just to see if these will fit on there and where I should put that on. Now, I'm putting it over my hand because it'll take some of the stickiness away. Sometimes if you put washi tape straight down onto the paper, it will tear a little bit when you pick it back up, especially if you've pressed it down. So using it against your skin, your clothing, something that has a little bit of oils or fuzz in it will still make it sticky, but not sticky enough to pull your paper. So then I realized that I clearly can't put stuff in a straight line, so I kind of just eyeballed it. I didn't like the way that it looked. And this will also help with holding my paper down to the craft mat. So I'm going to use some extra washi tape to hold the stencil down into place. And then I'm going to use two different colors of distress ink. The Twisted Citron, which is what I really think Mountain Dew looks like. I think it has that like bright green color. So I kind of just wanted to use that. And then I went in with a little bit of Mowed Lawn, which you'll see in a minute, to kind of darken up some of them. And if you see I'm using a twisting motion, it's because the stencil, it's kind of hard sometimes to get the ink all the way down into those really tiny bubbles. So I just kind of pressed into them a little bit just to see. And I lifted up the stencil just to see if it was going through, and there was some really light color, so I decided to add the Mowed Lawn in. Just kind of go, at first I thought I would just go around the edges, but then I kind of went a little crazy and went all over it. But then I peeled it up and I went back in with the actual ink pad itself. I used the corner kind of to press into some of those circles, and it looked a little bit better to me, so I put it back down, and then I just went back over with the mini ink blending tool. Now those ink tools, if you haven't seen them before, those are the round mini ink blending tools from Holtz. They're absolutely fantastic and work so much better than the square ones that he originally came out with. So once I pulled up that a little bit, I realized that there were not many bubbles at the bottom, and it kind of defeated the whole purpose of me putting the washi tape down. So I just went back over it with some Mowed Lawn, and then I'll go back in with the Twisted Citron, and oh, I did not. I thought I did. Just to kind of put some bubbles at the bottom too. So I like the way that looked, covered them back up, and then I was placing the soda bottles down so that I could just kind of get an idea of where I wanted things to go. Now you'll see here that I put the straws in the end. You'll notice that I don't end up using them, but right then I thought that I was going to. Again, one of the things I do all the time, I think I'm going to use something and then I don't. So I cut out the circle from the tops of the bottle caps already, and I'm using My Favorite Things Gumdrop Green ink to ink up two stamps. Now the other one says I have a crush on you, and the other one is just a circle with a heart cut out of it. So I'm going to do this several times because it didn't stamp very well. This is what I love using the MISTI for, because you can get a great impression every single time if you do it this way. So I found it's easiest, because the paper won't move, is to actually put it back in the negative. And I actually put the stamps in the negative part first, close the MISTI door, and then put the circles in and then stamped when I did that originally. Just to line things up, it makes it a little bit easier to not have the paper in there. You can see a little bit better. So I will end up only using two of these three circles, but again, I thought at that time that I was going to use the three circles. So now next thing I want to do is the sentiment. So that one is the sentiment from the stamp set. It says, I love everything you do, D-E-W. So I just thought that was cute because one of the bottles is going to be decorated like a bottle of Mountain Dew. So again, this stamp is brand new. It didn't give a great impression. I'm using the same exact My Favorite Things Gumdrop green ink, and I inked it up, I believe, 3 times and stamped it down there. It gets a really, really nice, deep, crisp, dark impression, and I love the way things come out with the MISTI with using this. It's so easy to double, triple, stamp however many times you need to. So now the next thing that I was going to do, I cleaned up a little bit, and you'll notice that I am putting the bottles on to try to see where everything is going to go. And at this point, I know that I want a heart in between them. So that little catch-all I have, it's from Michaels. It had buttons in it, and there, I think I had like 5 or 6 different color buttons. And I just keep little embellishments that if I cut out a row of 5 hearts and only use 2 of them, I put them back into there so that I can use them on other projects. So I have a ton of them, and they were hanging around. So I took out a little red heart right now. And now we're going back to the Distress ink. We're going to Twisted Citron. And now Mountain Dew bottle is all green. A Coca-Cola bottle is not. It's white at the top. So you'll notice how I do the bottles differently. And what's nice about this is actually because it kind of rounds up, because it has the has impressions in it, has a little lines, it actually makes it darker around the edges and then lighter in the middle. So I really like the way this came out. So then I went back with a little bit of Mowed Lawn just to do the edges again, just to make them stand out a little bit. So now that that's done, I'm going to go get my baby wipes because I have green ink all over my hand, and I'm going to be doing some other colors, and I don't want to transfer them over. So now we're going to be using the ground espresso, and this one is going to be for the Coke bottle. So I thought this looked very, very similar to a Coke bottle. So I did not go all the way to the top. You'll notice I take a spare piece of washi tape, and there's a little piece of probably cat hair on it. But I went back through and I used the same ground espresso and went over the edges. Same thing with this one. The edges are darker. The middle is the lightest because of the way the die cut was done. So there are the 2 bottles. And then I went back in with a little bit of black soot and just went around the edges. Kind of the same thing that I did with the Mowed Lawn. It just gives a little bit more definition to the sides of the bottle, and it gives it a little bit more of a 3D effect. So cleaning off the mat, I always try to keep baby wipes around. I forgot to this time. I had to go get them before, but I love keeping baby wipes around because I get so messy. So the next thing I wanted to do was I went through my stash because I realized Coke bottles have a red label. So I thought that I would use some Distress Ink Fired Brick and make that label red. So it's just going around the edges, and the same thing, because these were all die cuts, the edges get a little bit darker, and then I left the center a little bit lighter. If you do put your finger on there, you will notice that that shows a little bit of a lighter spot where your fingers are, but can't help it, they're teeny tiny pieces unless you color it and then cut it out. So I'm going back in with Mowed Lawn to do the label for the Mountain Dew bottle and go over that. Now that's going to stand out a little bit, even though it's still green, it's darker than the other one. I think it might look like a Sprite bottle, but I think Mountain Dew and Sprite look fairly similar. So that's the top of the bottle cap, and I decided I wanted to put that on, so I started putting it on, and then I realized, wait a second, I thought that I wanted the straw, so it wouldn't make sense to have the bottle cap on if you put the straw on. So I put the straw on, because I knew I wanted it to put the label over top of it. So I'm looking at it, and I don't know, I didn't really like it once I put the label on top of it. The straw was having a hard time sticking. I wasn't crazy about it. So I decide in the end to take the straw out of it. I didn't like the way the straw looked. If I probably had put some Distress ink on the straw, it probably would have looked better, and I could have done it that way, kind of make it look like it was in the soda rather than being stark white. But I decided, don't forget the straw, and just put the bottle cap top and the label on. So that's what I did for both the Mountain Dew bottle and the Coca-Cola bottle. So just finishing those up. And I think that the colors are fairly representative of the actual bottles themselves, so I was pretty happy with the colors of Distress Ink that I chose. Now I know I wanted to make the heart at the top of the 2 bottles, like the bottles were in love, so I chose that heart from the stash. It's just, I believe it's a Simon Says Stamp heart die that I did, or a Lawn Fawn heart die. I can't remember which one. So I glued the bottles down, and that's a Zig two-way glue pen that I'm using there, which I love for gluing on little pieces. And there's the front of the card. And then I was trying to figure out what to do with the bubbles. So now you'll see a bunch of different ideas. I think I probably should have just stuck with this one. Decided to change it up a little bit, and you'll see that in a minute. But the one circle says, I think, what does it say? Hold on. Let me give it. It says, I've got a crush on you. So I thought that was really cute. And I put it next to the do sentiment. And then I decided, no, I didn't really want that. And back and forth, there's a couple different colors of hearts in there. Did I want 2 of the circles on there? Did I want some hearts? And I decided to glue the heart next to the sentiment. And then I wasn't really sure, and I didn't like the way the 2 hearts looked on there. I probably should have taken just, if I wanted to do the hearts, I probably should have just done 3 of the small hearts and not done any of the bottle cap tops. So I was back and forth with that decision. I couldn't figure it out. And then I decided on the 2 hearts. Then I peeled them up. I didn't know what I wanted. Again, back and forth, wasn't sure. I liked that sentiment that I've got a crush on you, so I put that next to the dew bottle, even though that's crush is, you know, another kind of soda, so that doesn't make sense. But I put that on there, so now there are the 2 red hearts. So now there's red in 3 places, plus the green. Now I'm using my ATG to put tape on the back of the card. So the white piece is 4 by 5 1/4. The green piece is is an 1/8 of an inch larger than that. And then the card base is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. Now since I had distress ink on that, I moved it off to the side, attached the front panel, and that's it for the card. So thank you guys so much for watching. There's the sketch again if you need it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys again real soon. Bye!